Super League spotlight shining so bright. Interviews and news, come join the hype.
Hello and welcome to episode 3. We are flying through these episodes now, Rona.
We are, but then the games are flying by, aren't they, as well?
Absolutely, the whole new season, never a minute to spare.
Pretty much, and we're not even have to run about.
I know, but the league has actually started now, so that the Betty Cardona Trophy is put to one side until December the 7th, I think, and we are now fully league action.
Yeah, that pre-season is behind us.
Pre-season. You only call it a pre-season if you're not winning.
Yeah. Oh, shots fired.
So today we have got a special guest on the show. We'll introduce her in a little bit. I'm excited to get chatting to her though and find out about her journey and what she's up to with Leicester this season. Oh, clue.
What a quiz master you are.
I know, right? But let's talk about the weekend because we had 5 games on Saturday. Let's start with Manchester, London.
Yeah, so I suppose if we're going headlines, Manchester 96, London 48. We thought they would win the game, Manchester. You know, all the players ranged from 26 minutes down to 14 minutes, 9 players in the game. Danny Williams, however, though, I think grabbing headlines there. 27 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and a 38 efficiency to go with it, with 66% overall shooting efficiency, which is pretty good, although just to be a hater, 0 from 1 from the free throw line. She did all that hard work. And yeah, Manchester as well got everybody in the score sheet, so it looks like a solid performance and win from them. Some great performances as well. On the flip side, London, they had 9 players in the game as well, but sort of that heavier end of the minutes, the 36 down to 13. Macy Spinks putting up another good sort of performance herself as well, 12, 5 and 3. And Manchester shot twice as well as London did when you looked at the shooting efficiency. Mm-hmm. And London only shot 9 less shots. So I think we can kind of see potentially where the game was won and lost there. But I think that's also testament to the pressure that Manchester were putting on London when they were looking to shoot, and also the sort of shot options that London were needing to take.
Yeah, I think Manchester made such a fast start. As you said, Danny Williams hit 2 or 3 triples in that first quarter or first half at least. And then if it wasn't her hitting them, it was Eva Karashaite who was hitting them as well. And they just scored at such a rate. Slowed down to the second half, I would say. But yeah, they're looking good, Manchester, considering they haven't had a lot of time together.
Yep, and I would have agreed with that whole, did they take their foot off the gas? There's a bit more rotation, so they're working on different things, because they went 33 points first quarter, 29 second, then it dropped to 18 and 16.
Yeah.
But, you know, they still took the 4 quarter wins, so, you know, tick, 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 tick. However, yeah, if we've got to pick out another thing to discuss, then there we go.
Yeah, so let's move on then. Manchester got that first win of the season. Sheffield the same, 108-50 away in Cardiff. We talked a little bit about Cardiff last week, and should we be worried for them? Thoughts on this matchup?
Well, Cardiff, they hit over their 40, and I know I kind of said last time, you know, they've not even reached 40 yet. They had 2 quarters in double figures. For them, it was the second and third quarter where they didn't hit those double figures. It really let them down. Watching the game though, it was good to see that they had comms going on. It was good to see they seemed to be on their show court as opposed to being on the side court. And, you know, Abigail Juncker coming out with a 14, 5 and 5. Cardiff though, maybe slightly smaller on their bench rotations. They had 3 players playing over 30 minutes and above, which is always going to hit the leg. Sheffield, you know, 10 players again on the score sheet. Wright Ponder coming away with 22 and 10 and 6, you know, in just over 20 minutes. You know, they had 74 points in the paint against Cardiff's 10. And again, I think that shows you, and I suppose when it is a dominating win, you're getting the ball inside. They had loads of fast break points as well, turnovers. But I think as well, the other stat that will be really pleasing for Coach Ellis will be they had 68 points coming off that bench to Cardiff's 12. I mean, if your bench is contributing 68 points in any sort of situation, that's a really good place to be in.
Yeah, I know we talked about Georgia Gale last week. She came away with 18 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, stuffing up that stat sheet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in terms of Cardiff, with 2 minutes left in that first quarter, they were 17-22, I think. kind of right in a competitive first quarter. And the last 2 minutes, I think, was a 5-0 run for Sheffield, but it shows they can compete in that small period of time.
Yeah, and I think, we've never doubted their ability, as a team, but over that 40 minutes and over the travel and everything, I think that all comes into play as well. But no, I think they did show flashes of good things, and that's what any team's looking for, right? Isn't it? That they're looking to make progress. They've gone above the 40 barrier mark, and it's just building confidence within the team. Practice maybe went a little bit better. Maybe practice went a little bit worse. You never know. They always say, is it a poor dress rehearsal makes for a great final show? So there'll be lots going on down there, but I think they'll take some positives from it. But again, I think at one point Sheffield's lead was out to about 63, but it finished with that 58-point win. Sheffield had done and dusted up the road. Cardiff, yes, another big loss. So they'll need to regroup and go again.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Sheffield, Manchester wins. And Essex joined that list as well, 77-63 against Nottingham. That name, Taylor O'Brien again.
It is, and I was thinking about what I'd said, and I was like, I think sometimes she'll be the difference maker. And I really do think she was, as I turn my page over really subtly. I really do think she was the difference maker for them. She came out with 34, 9 and 4. And I think it was about 1 minute 40, 1 minute, something like that, left to play in the second, that she'd already notched up 20 points. She came out and she came to play, and I think she looked to try and exploit Nottingham and the sort of matchup she had there and get them to turn the ball over. And I think, she put in a really solid, strong performance for Essex, because that game, it really did seesaw, and you never quite thought that Rebels were pulling away with it ever. It was a bit of they were slugging it out at times, but Nottingham had all 12 of their players hit the floor, and Claire Jacobs with 22, and she was 11 from the free throw line. So props to that, going out and continually hitting them. They did lead sort of near the end of the first, and then sort of very early on into the second. And then obviously it was all Essex from that point in. But again, I think, there'll be positives there to take. And from the Nottingham team to build upon that. And you can only get better by playing against good competition.
Yeah, and again, I said the same about Cardiff. That first quarter was 26-25, very competitive. And we had Essex down to win, but Nottingham did compete. Like they have got a talented but young team. Yeah,
and I did say that was another one that would provide some good viewing. And it did provide some good viewing. But like you say, Nottingham took away the final quarter, 19 to I think it was 18 there. Maybe Rebels would say they'd taken their foot off the gas or whatever, but it was competitive right till the end, and you wonder what would have happened in an extra few minutes, like in the next game we're going to discuss. 2 games time. But yeah, I think another sort of good, entertaining, competitive game. Both teams sort of finding themselves still and sort of working each other out.
So a game that the stream didn't work at the time. I think it might be up now, but I haven't had a chance to watch it. So I was following along on the stats page. But Auckland's 99, Durham 70. And that's probably a little bit deceiving of a scoreline, considering what was it with 22-0 run towards the end for Auckland's to finish the game. Durham competed for a good 3.5 quarters.
They did, and like you say, I know we made the joke. I'm going to drag you on this. I'm like, wherever Lee Davey goes, the stream does not follow. If it happens a third time to poor Durham, I'm going to start pointing elbows. I don't know what advantage, there'd be no advantage to gain from that. But like you said, it was 26-18 first quarter. It was level Peggins, 18-all second, 23-21. 32-13, and for a team Auckland that we've said, challenging for silverware this season, top 4, Durham for both of us sort of further down, looking to get into the playoffs. But I think, like you say, did it just click for them? It's hard to know, because like I was following along in stats and things. Was it just quite sluggish, or were Durham really at it? But again, they were still missing Sarah, they were still missing Harriet. So I just put ran out of steam ? Because they had players playing, big minutes against them. But Abigail Rafferty for me would have been the standout at Auckland's, judging by stats, 26-6, a plus minus of 23 and a 34 index. So it sounds like she had a very good day. at the office.
Yeah, I think for Durham, another kind I guess it was a bit of a shot to nothing because they weren't expected to beat Oakland's.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Lee and the team will have taken lots of positives from that performance and the performance against Newcastle the week before, 2 weeks before. They've have competed in all their matches, even though they've been short-handed. They have competed, and then they've got Newcastle on Saturday coming up, so that is going to be a fascinating matchup.
It will. And, we're talking about player minutes and things. Durham had 3 players almost playing the full game. And, at Oakland's that we've discussed have got a pretty stacked team. They'll have plenty coming off their bench. I mean, they had 28 bench points, Oakland's to Durham 6. So I think that tells a story as well. So I think, like you say, again, for Durham, lots of positive to take. Oakland's will have a few things to look out what was going on where, etc. But Oakland's as well seem to be sharing the court time. Sometimes when you're looking at keeping court time more even or sharing it, does that then disrupt things, or is that an intentional thing? So as the season progresses, everyone's really well bled in because they've still come away with what looks like a convincing win in the end. So there's various ways of looking at what potentially Lee Ryan's been doing there.
Okay, let's move on. A game we did highlight at the start of last week for being maybe the game of the weekend, and as it turned out,
it was.
Everyone loves a good overtime.
Indeed.
So Newcastle just came up short against Leicester. It was 69-69 at the end of normal time, and then 82-78 to Leicester at the finish. Thoughts on this one?
Yeah, thoughts on that was solid game. Really interesting watching both teams. The lead very much seesawed. Eagles taking the first and third quarters, Riders taking the second and fourth quarter, and then ultimately that overtime. For me, I feel very much like it just came down to being able to finish at the end. And Eagles in that fourth quarter, they went, was it 3 minutes without a score in that fourth? So they maybe just looked a little bit tight. Hodges wasn't able to get the looks that she had been getting. She looked to be floating more and more outside. And that's where Riders just seemed to find their confidence. And the entire game in the fourth quarter went 2 minutes without a score. And there was one point, it was like a tennis match. They were up, they were down, they were up, they were down, they were up, they were down. And it just needed someone to take the game by the scruff of the neck. And I think that's where Riders did that. And I think because they fought back to make sure, and I know they got the last shot of the fourth quarter as well, but they'd sort of had to claw their way back into it in that fourth quarter, having been down. So I think they then went in with their tails up into the overtime. And even though they lost Chandler in that overtime period, they were able to have enough steam to get them through.
Yeah, I think what was it, a minute left, Newcastle were up by 5. I think they might be like kicking themselves a little bit. I think Chloe Gaynor hit a 3 to extend Newcastle's lead, but then Katie Januszewska took over and
did
leveled it up.
I think that it comes down to the game management there as well from the players, doesn't it? That they were obviously buzzing and they were up. And then there's a couple of timeouts, but it's been able to ride that out. And because, like you say, they had their tails up, but KJ had other ideas.
Absolutely, and that is a nice segue into our special guest today, because it is the one and the only Katie Januszewska. Hello, Katie. Welcome to episode 3. You are our very first special guest. What an honour!
Thank you for having me.
So let's dive straight in. What a night you had on Saturday night against Newcastle. 22 points. Talk us through your thoughts on the night.
Well, we got the win. It was a scrappy win, but I think it was a good win as a team for us to be able to come together and really show like we can get through certain situations. And I think that was good to have early on in the season. We were missing a few players, obviously, so that kind of changed a few bits than where we were playing. But I think overall we managed to get through and get the win. So that was the main thing.
So you played about 40 minutes as well. Big minutes, and early on in the season, how important is it to kind of get that rhythm going for yourself and for obviously the team of Leicester?
Yeah, I think it's been nice early on in the season. I've been given a bigger role than last year, so that's been fun. And I think just as a team, we've been getting on well. And I think from a starting point, like we'll take it. We've been in pre-season for about a month. Brooks just got here, obviously, so we've still got a lot to build on, and we'll take that as a starting point.
Right. We'll come back to Leicester in a little bit, but let's talk about you and let's get to know you a little bit better. Let's start with where were you born?
Derby, so about 25 minutes from Loughborough, so pretty local.
That's handy. That's handy.
Yeah.
When did you start playing basketball? When was like a basketball a big thing in your life?
I started when I was 12, so maybe a little bit later. It was in secondary school. It was an after school club, and it was actually Leicester Riders that came in and did it. So it was quite like a full circle, really. But yeah, it was good.
And previous to, I'm always quite interested in this, but previous to playing basketball, were you quite a sporty person? Did you do other sports? You know, because obviously, like you say, nice full circle moment for the Riders. They'll be holding you up like, this is what can happen. But, you know, what were your other interests sporting wise previous?
I've always enjoyed anything with the ball, really. I've enjoyed. But from young, I played football, cricket, did a bit of race skiing as well. And then basketball was the last kind of sport that I found. But the football, there was no girls' teams when I was younger, so I was playing on a boys' team growing up with them. So I think that's honestly helped me going into basketball.
I was going to say, I think at that age, playing like mixed sex as well, because it makes you a little bit more athletic, doesn't it? And makes you, because there's usually a bit more rough and tumble on the boys' side of sport. So yeah, I think probably has then affected your style of play. We'll look out for that more so as the season goes on. A few elbows here, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So you said Leicester Riders came in and kind of got you into basketball. Was there anyone who inspired you when you were younger to kind of really kick on and do it like as you grew older?
Honestly, I'd not really watched or seen basketball that much. My first kind of exposure was through Riders, and then they came in, and it was when the men played back at Loughborough still. That was kind of when I first started watching the games. And then obviously now I've grown up and I'm watching the games a lot more. So it's just kind of watching the high level, like WNBA games and things like that.
It's a bit annoying that you're that good and you're just like, oh, I didn't really watch it. I started when I was 12.
Yeah, no, it's mainly football and cricket that I grew up on. So, but.
So when did you start playing for a team? Obviously Leicester came in, but when did you get involved in like the team element of basketball?
That was kind of around the same year. So they asked me to go to develop their foundation program that they have. So I went to a few sessions there, and they said they had a team, like an under 14s girls team. But I didn't end up playing there because they didn't have enough players for a team. So that's when I ended up going to Leicester Warriors, and I had a year at Leicester Warriors playing under 14s. And that's kind of where I really started in my first team.
Yeah, so you hear about that kind of thing a lot. Maybe it's 8, 9, 10 years ago with maybe not having enough players. I have seen a bit of a shift in, I mean, obviously my experience in Newcastle, there are a lot of girls who are now playing in kind of central venue leagues across the northeast. So I have noticed an increase in girls playing basketball from younger ages.
Yeah, it's been way better. The Riders Foundation as well, they're doing a great job. We do some community sessions with the kids, and we're getting quite a good showing. And on the foundation side, they've kind of built up a really good program to have under 14s girls, under 16 girls, and I think maybe last year they had enough girls to actually create a third team. So it's definitely moving in the right direction. And just at the weekend, we was in Newcastle. The girls, I think maybe under 14s were playing each other before us, so that was nice to see.
That'll be so inspiring for them as well, because like you said, imagine you'd had that opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, at that age, because I was very lucky. I came through a pathway where it was from like 16, well, 14s, 12s, actually all the way up. And I remember watching the senior women and be like, whoa, like, so, you know, I was very fortunate, but, you know, for you now to be that player that you didn't have, you know, that must be pretty cool for you as well, because, you know, how exactly that must feel for them to have that opportunity and to be able to interact with you guys and chat with you guys. You know, you're not behind a TV screen. It's not somebody that's, you know, across the pond that's like right there in front of them and really tangible.
Yeah, it is nice. And I think just having that accessibility really helps them to kind of look up and realise that they can play as well. And I think that's important for just growing our game in general, in particular the women's side as well.
Mm-hmm.
We had a big discussion last week about what women's basketball needs to do in this country to grow. That's probably for a different time. But so you started playing about when you were 12. When did you think I'm pretty good at this? This is something I could do in the future, and how did your kind of basketball career develop from that young age?
Well, from Leicester Warriors, I then moved to Derby because they were closer to me, so it was easier for my parents to get me to and from training and games. So I moved there and spent 2 years at under 14s and then another 2 years under 16s. So it was probably the under 16s was when I was kind of talking about academies and where I was going to go. And then eventually I picked Charnwood. That worked for me, like I was close. So that was good. And then I think from there was obviously the talk about America and going there, which I then ended up obviously doing. So that was fun. I think probably just the kind of that age, the academy age, was probably when it got spoke about the most.
So it'd be interesting to talk a bit more about America and the thought process of going across there. Obviously, it's a big move and a big change in your life. Talk us through the decision-making process for the America trip.
I think it's something that's kind of talked about a lot, and it's kind of the main route that I was told. And it was kind of you can get your education for free there, and also continue to play basketball. So that was obviously like appealing to me. And yeah, it was just talking to different colleges, going through that process. And then I ended up going to New York, which was fun. I really enjoyed it. I'd tell everyone I would have always gone out there and done that. And just being able to experience it's obviously a change in the style of basketball and the way they play. There's quite a few different subtle differences, but even the rules are different, which is funny to see. And because you see when the pros come here, they notice the changes as well. But it was great exposure for me and development to just play with a different style of play. So.
Okay.
And the classic one is always when the pros come over, isn't it, and calling a timeout on the court when it's like a jump ball situation. You're like, that doesn't happen, and everyone goes, you know, or the backcourt violations and various things like that. But you know, you sort of touched on you wouldn't change what you did, but how did it feel sort of coming to the end of that freshman season and then, you know, that sort of college pathway changing, I suppose, right in front of you?
Yeah, well, for me, it kind of changed quite late on because I never really thought about, well, I obviously thought a little bit, but I didn't think about obviously coming back to the UK. But the college cut the funding in March. So I was at home for spring break and I got a call from my head coach and they cut the funding. All the
so that tight on timing. I was wondering if because obviously when it breaks on social media, you don't know how much, but then it sounds like it was a very close time frame actually, and you guys knowing and everybody else knowing, which
it was the first season, and I was at home for spring break, and then we got told that we weren't going to have funding for the next season, and they weren't going to carry on sport. They said they'd honour the scholarship, but I still wanted to play basketball. So
was there any other options for you at that stage? So obviously you ended up coming back to Leicester, but did you have any other things going on, any other offers that were made?
I was looking at Canada for quite a while, just in terms of the education side, because in America I was studying maths, and really what I wanted to study was engineering. And in Canada I could do engineering, whereas in America it was harder. But then kind of Leicester then offered me to be able to study engineering here. So I think that just the fit worked better here than it did in Canada. There was quite a few things that weren't the right fit there. But that was an offer that I was close to taking, but just a few things on it didn't quite work out.
Yeah, and I guess it's been good though that you've been able to go out and have the college lifestyle and like see another style of play for someone in a non-patronising way that's still so young. Usually if you stay over here, but I think also, like you said, it was the main pathway, and I think sometimes it's the only pathway people see is like, I've got to go to college and then come back, and go that way. Whereas, Holly Winterman's done it. You're going to do it. Both coming through that, like, Riders, doing maybe a snippet of time out there, or there's other players around the league who maybe haven't gone stateside at all. And with, like you say, the growing academies and the player opportunities over here, that you're now getting to study exactly what you want to study, but still play basketball at the top level in the UK. And do you think, like 12, 13, 14-year-olds, you could have seen that all happening?
No, not at all. I think the journey I've had, I couldn't have imagined one bit, to be honest. And just the ability to play basketball at a high level and to be able to study what I want, I think that's just fitted perfectly for me, especially because I'm doing engineering, so that's helped. But I think it is a pathway that isn't talked about a lot. I think the main one is like, you've got to go to America, you've got to study, do your 4 years. But I think actually there is a pathway in England that, with the right club, the right system, like, is just as good as the American one. But like I say, I enjoyed my time in America, and I think it's helped me as a player just from the experiences I had out there. But there is also a pathway in England that is good, especially with the links between, especially here, we have good links with the uni. So I think the more teams are getting that, the more like option that is for players.
We've talked a lot about the university links to teams and what that can offer to players, and if that is a sustainable model for basketball teams in the country, as well as obviously the links to men's teams as well. What do you notice about the Leicester's kind of link to the men's team? Do you get to use the same facilities as them in practice wise, or talk us through the procedures of Leicester's men and women's teams?
Okay, so we're mainly based out of the Loughborough University, obviously the netball centre.
Mm-hmm.
So we're predominantly training in the netball centre and SLBW, and use the power-based gym. The men are mainly at Morningside Arena and use a gym there, so that's quite separate in that sense. When they have games, like when they do like the games for us at the arena, they'll try and get us in to practice like that week, so we get to practice there before we play. But other than that, it is quite split between the men and the women there.
And do they, how would you like to play more at Morningside Arena? Are you happy with the setup? Because actually that's where you train, so to you it would seem a bit daft to train in one place. And do you think that's to do with that strong university like the women's team do have? Because obviously you guys tend to flourish in Bucks as well. So I guess teams probably juggling a couple of hats there as well.
Yeah, I think that is a big part of it. They're trying to like please both sides of it, but I think it would definitely be nice to get more games at the arena. I think they've said the plan is this year to have quite like a few more, so maybe like 3 to 5 games there this year. But I think it is nice to have, because when we go, like, and you speak to the fans afterwards, they say like they'll come and watch, but the fan base for Leicester is predominantly in Leicester, so for them to come to Loughborough, then it's tougher for us to kind of get fans. We've got to then market it at Loughborough. But in Leicester, there's already a fan base there, and like people would come if there was like regular games there, and they enjoy watching the women's game as well.
So
let's talk about this season. Oh, sorry, Rona.
I was just saying, put you in the arena. That's where you should be. Or we just need to get some paint on that netball centre and be like basketball and netball centre.
Yeah.
We talked about my art skills last week that are not there, but I will get down. Banner even that we unfurl.
Yeah, it's funny. The netball don't even play there.
What an insult to injury. Mark actually pointed out it comes up as the netball and badminton centre. I was like, that's somebody just riling up the British basketball groups. That is just somebody having an absolute wind up by shoving that in there.
For sure.
Let's talk about this season. What are your hopes for Leicester and kind of an individual basis? What are your hopes for the season?
I think the league is going to be quite close this year, and obviously that top spot is there for the taking with anyone. And I think each team could like take wins off each other. So I think in that sense, it's just a case of maximising the wins we can get and for us, we're aiming to be at the top and definitely within those top teams. And for me, just to carry on in the role that I am and just to help the team in whatever way I can.
Hitting 22 points a night will probably help. That'll be good.
Yeah, hopefully.
Something we haven't talked about yet is kind of international recognition, and talk us through, was it the under-20s this year? Yeah. Talk us through kind of your...
And first cap.
Yep.
Rwanda. What a place to get your first senior cap. I'm sure loads of folk just jumped on a plane to come and support you for that.
Yeah, no, that was fun. So with the 20s, we was in Bulgaria. So that was a fun experience. We had a really good prep campaign. We had like a good month together before, and it was kind of, I think we did it like 2 weeks and then had a few days and then had another 2 weeks and headed straight to the tournament. So that was good in the sense of like being able to build together as a team. And we got, I think, maybe 6 or 7 prep games in. So that was the best prep that I've done so far with the GB like youth teams, and that really helped us in the tournament. And then we ended up coming top 8. The end was a bit unfortunate with what happened, but I think we could have got higher, but we'll take it how it was because that was out of our control. So, and then I went on and did the 3-on-3 GB as well. We went out to Hungary for that. That was a really fun experience. It was, the final team was put together, like we had a few days in camp before, so that was quite tight, but overall of getting GB into the 3-on-3 like tournaments and setups, it was a really good start for us. And I think because of the availability for like us, we couldn't do both stops, so we had to have different teams for both stops in Hungary and Poland. I think if we'd have been able to have that and have the Hungary tournament as like a prep and then go into Poland, I think we'd have probably performed a lot stronger in that because we'd had the like tournament experience under our belt, whereas quite a lot of us were new to obviously a 3-on-3 tournament compared to the other teams who had played like 200 games of 3-on-3. So yeah, and then
what a summer.
Yeah. And obviously went to Rwanda with GB with the seniors. That was a great learning experience for me, just to see how they're doing it at the seniors and just to see, like, they're all professionals there, so just seeing how they work, how they train was a great experience for me to learn from.
And just like, you must have so much kit.
Yeah,
quite in my head, I'm like, you must have like at least 15 t-shirts, like just cutting about. Like,
not quite that many, but
yeah, maybe three if I'm more thinking about budget constraints and stuff. But definitely rocking up those air miles, aren't you? So clearly you're somebody that's on that GB pathway, and it's somebody that they're looking to invest in as well. And like you say, what an amazing learning experience going away to these different countries. And in a way, it's quite good you've come up against adversity, like with your under-20s and what went on there, and still having to pull together as a team and making, I know you wouldn't have been necessarily partial to those tough decisions, but being around that and how you pull together that as a team in Rwanda as well. You know, some things didn't quite go the team's way at various times, and adapting to that. So yeah, what a summer of growth. You know, when some people maybe, you know, go into that pre sort of season, off season training, you've just kept climbing, and maybe that's what we're going to see as this season progresses.
Yeah, I think that's really helped me over this summer and allowed me to really build my confidence. I think that's like kind of the main thing that's helped me, and then also be able to put my experiences into now with riders, and also the leadership aspect from the 20s is also helping me here as well.
So we've talked about the past, we've talked about the present. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? What's the goal?
The goal, I want to still be playing. Obviously still playing at a high level. But really just see where I can take it really and go from there.
Do you have a certain league in mind? Do you have a certain tournament in mind? Do you see KJ, Eurobasket, bronze medalist, MVP of the tournament? I don't know, say I said bronze, gold medalist, you know. What is on that, I don't know, affirmation boards?
I mean, that would be.
I feel as British people were really bad at being like, this is what I want. Where I was like, no, well, I'll just see if somebody signs me next year. But yeah, where are you going?
Would be obviously to play in EuroLeague, and to be able to have a big role in there within a team. And then also, I think in terms of seeing GB succeed, like the Olympics is coming up. I think we should be trying to qualify for the Olympics and see what we can do on the world stage.
Love it. I'm down for it.
Yeah.
Where's the next Olympics? LA, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's all go to Los Angeles.
That's what I want to do. I want to go out to LA for the next games because I'm like, oh, that'd be amazing. But I'll be going to Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. That's where I'll be going.
Yep.
That's going to be my highlight, trying to get a ticket for something.
Yeah, that's a hard part.
Yeah, that is an Olympic sport in itself. Trust me, after the Commonwealths were here in 2014, yeah.
Right, let's finish with some quick fire questions. Some basketball related, some not. Just a chance for us to get to know you just that little bit better. Let's start with what's your favourite Netflix series at the moment?
I've just watched Outer Banks. That's just come out. Outer Banks and Emily in Paris.
Oh, love Emily in Paris. Girl after my own heart. Big British question this. Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Thank goodness. Are you a green tea sort of person, or are you just like breakfast?
No, I just like a breakfast tea. I mean, I'm mainly got chocolate, honestly, but
Yes.
if I had to pick tea or coffee, then it would be tea.
Fair.
What annoys you the most?
Oof. Don't know. I think I get too annoyed, really. Quite chilled.
That's a great answer. Just nice and relaxed.
What would you say is your style as a player in one word, like playing style?
Oof. Resilient.
Like it.
What is your kind of favourite moment as part of your basketball career on court?
Oh, I think a big part was getting on the seniors for the GB.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big part.
And I mean, the last one from me, and this is going to really put you on the spot, who's your favourite teammate ever? Don't need to explain why.
Hey, Oliver.
We were just talking about Kate Oliver before, weren't we? Before we came on.
We absolutely were.
Yeah,
okay, just the last one then. I love basketball because
I love basketball because of the opportunities it gives me and the people I can meet.
amazing. And the places you get to visit, especially
and the
last summer.
podcast you get to record.
Yeah.
Clearly. Well, Katie, it's been absolutely fascinating getting to hear about your journey in basketball, your hopes and ambitions for the next few years and Leicester for this season. All I can say is good luck for the rest of the season, but please don't do that to Newcastle again. Thank you very much kindly.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
So that brings this episode of Super League Spotlight to a close. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you find this podcast. It is the best way to support us and the best way for you to hear when we release our latest episodes. Now, it's a huge thank you to Katie for joining us today. Fascinating to get the insights of a current SLBW player, and I would love you to join us on this journey this season because we have got guests lined up from players, coaches, general managers. We have got it all, and it is all coming for you. So make sure you like this video, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you on the next one.